It is our last opportunity of the season to have any sort of Monday morning quarterback conversation. And what better person to chat with than our very own two-time Super Bowl champ, Howard Griffith. Howard, what did you think about the Super Bowl?
It was a boring game, wasn't it? Not a lot of excitement. I mean, you kind of knew exactly what was going to happen the entire game. But, no, really, it was, one of the biggest, I'd have to say, it's one of the biggest collapses of teams when you think about Atlanta and the way they were up in this game and really controlling things for really about 2.5 quarters. They really controlled things. But in the end, Tom Terrific really made some things happen. His team came together offensively, defensively, and really started to make the plays that they didn't make earlier in the game.
Yeah, Tom was pretty fantastic, putting up numbers that are quite literally unbelievable when you look at them. He completed a record 43 of 62 passes, and he put up a record 466 passing yards, all while leading the Patriots to the biggest comeback in Super Bowl history. What does this game do for his legacy?
Well, I think what we have to start to do now, and there was an argument before, who was the greatest quarterback ever to put on the show pads, and you could have made a case before that it's Tom Brady. Now, the question should no longer be asked. No one should ask that question anymore. It should be off limits. He is the greatest quarterback ever to play in the National Football League. Now, I think, ultimately, the debate needs to turn to, is he the greatest football player ever to play in the National Football League? That's what the numbers that he has done, the championships, the Super Bowl trophies that he's won. And I think you can make an argument that of all the champions that are out there, he's probably done more with less offensively than any other quarterback ever to play in the game.
Well, he had quite a bit of support last night. He may have won the MVP, but he says that his running back, James White, a former Wisconsin Badger, should have actually won the MVP award. White had 3 touchdowns and set a Super Bowl record with 14 receptions. You watched White when he was at Wisconsin, so what did you think of his performance on Sunday night?
The performance that he had was unbelievable. And I think why you have to take special note of what James White did in that game is the game plan was not for James White to have 14 catches for 110 yards. That wasn't the game plan, because if they're controlling the football game, Blunt is getting more carries, they're running the football, they're controlling it. So you have to give a lot of credit to James White, not only in his preparation, but also his ability that once his number was called, he made plays. And that's what he did. Not only just running the football and the catches, the receptions, but he had some unbelievable blitz pickups as well. So you talk about wanting to be a complete back, an all-around back that can do everything. That's who James White was last night, and it was unbelievable. And you have to agree with Brady that, without his performance, some of the individual efforts that he made on certain receptions and running the football, they would not have won the Super Bowl last night.
It's always about the next man up for New England and in any successful team, really. Atlanta running back Tevin Coleman, he's a former Hoosier. I want to ask you about almost all of the Big Ten guys, Howard. He put up 29 yards and a touchdown before he left the game in the 4th quarter with an ankle injury. So what did you see from him in that game?
Well, I think he's continuing to grow as a player, and we've watched that since he's shown up at Indiana and really made plays and really became the back that he is right now to be able to make plays. He's coached by really the same coach that coached me when I was with the Broncos, and Bobby Turner, who was a Big Ten guy, coached at Ohio State, coached at Georgia, some of those guys. So, I know he's getting great coaching. So I know he's continuing to raise his football IQ. And he played well. They had an opportunity to win that game last night, but all of a sudden they couldn't make plays. But Tevin has shown that, he still is a big play threat, as he was in the college game in Indiana. He's been able to do that same thing at the pro level. You just have to continue to be able to stay healthy and have some good luck while he's able to go out and continue to produce.
Another Big Ten player, although not in necessarily the traditional sense, is Chris Hogan. Really one of the most intriguing storylines of the postseason. He had a massive game for the Pats throughout the postseason, helping the Pats get to the championship game. Then he had a couple of key plays in the Super Bowl. But he's a former Penn State lacrosse player. So how surprising is his story?
Well, I think when you look at the history of New England, and the players that have been able to step up and risen to prominence to be able to be vital parts of championship teams, it's not that unusual for guys to be able to step up, right? But when you take a guy that hasn't had a traditional background in football, that's where it gets so interesting. So not only do you have to give him a lot of credit as well, being prepared and really able to seize the opportunity, but you got to give the Patriots a lot of credit as well when they can identify guys that will be able to come into their system, into their program, the way they run it, and are able to be productive no matter what their career has been up until that point. It seems that once they walk through that Patriots door, the entrance to the locker room, you know, everyone gets on the same page. And those that don't get on the same page aren't there very long. So, you know, it's an improbable story. But I think when you look at it in totality and who the Patriots are, it's just one more notch in the belt of Belichick of being not only, you know, the greatest coach ever to walk the sidelines, but also a guy who can identify talent that's out there as well.
Certainly a game that will live in Super Bowl lore. Fantastic game to watch. Howard, thank you so much for joining us and giving us your insight.
Hey, anytime. Take care.